Whoa, you're shining on mine.
Right. Wax it all up.
Yeah, lots of pink.
Are we there yet, Katie?
I think so. I'm just switching over to check it.
Yeah, there it goes.
Okay.
All right. Shut her down.
Oh, shut up.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
The bell tolls.
Go ahead and get two first readings and one second reading. And we're going to go right into finance with Mr. Kotz.
Good evening, everybody. We will open our Finance Committee meeting at 6:02. Our first reading is a resolution authorizing New Franklin to enter into an agreement with 21st Century Alarm Incorporated for the purchase of an electronic door notification system, an outdoor camera system, and the upgrade of the camera fob server software for Manchester local schools in conjunction with the COPS Office Stop School Violence Prevention Program Award, and declaring that this resolution shall be effective immediately. We've gone through this a number of times. Just as a refresher, this is the grant applied for through the city of New Franklin for the Manchester schools. And basically it's their money to spend, and it just happens to through New Franklin, so we have to approve these. And this is a total amount of $23,140.50. Questions, any? All right, then we'll, unless there's any concern, we'll ask to waive the three readings on this and move forward.
Okay.
And I guess we'll move on to our second reading. This is resolution D, a resolution authorizing the hiring of a service department road superintendent as a division head and executive employee under the Fair Standards Act, and establishing compensation, and declaring this resolution shall be effective immediately upon passage. Paul, do you want to speak? And then I have some comments, maybe to go along, or
Okay.
should I read the comments first?
Well, here, I'll jump in. Wait, well, go ahead, Jim. Maybe you do that. Maybe that makes more sense.
Okay, so I received an email from, hang on, I got it right here. Really, from Kevin Powell at 1567 Swigert Road, and regarding resolution 20R50. I'll just read what he's written for everybody. I understand the need to properly staff various city positions, but is the timing right to pull the trigger on this item? Here are my thoughts on why it may not be the time to do so, or at least items to think about. It appears from a citizen's point of view, the broadband project was pulled due to being able to be used for payroll. Are the funds needed for payroll due to shortfalls in the budget due to COVID-19? Basically, this payroll was budgeted and these costs should already be accounted for. So the logical thought is there is a shortfall. In the meeting on 10/7, the mayor states the memorandum of understanding is effective until March of 2021, and the spot wouldn't be filled until later. So there's no pressing reason to move forward now as far as staffing needs. He also stated the supervisor could perform work in the event of a shortage of manpower. As someone who has over 25 years dealing with the Teamsters, trust me when I say they will bend on some items, but supervisors working in one is one they only flex on for so long. If a person is promoted, which I'm not disagreeing with, you most certainly would have to hire a new person to fill the vacancy. Because the mayor stated they don't have enough manpower now, if this would play out where an additional person is not hired and the supervisor is now performing the same work when in the union loses revenue due to less union dues being paid. Finally, it may be prudent to hold on to this item until the impact on 2020 financial revenue. So we don't commit to bringing on additional staff only to find out we're lacking resources. So that was the comment. And, he voiced some concern about hiring. And as we talked about, if we were to promote from within, there would be a need there to fill that position, which is what would happen. We would fill that open position. And then the supervisor position, working in the trenches as such, needed emergency type of thing. The mayor and I had a conversation last week. We talked about the money and how finances are happening with it, and why this could be a good idea. And I think I'll let Paul talk about it and answer some of those points, and also be able to talk about the March, the timing of everything, and all that fun stuff.
All
Thanks,
right. Can I say one thing, Paul? I'm going to say it again to Jim. I'm not sure what your angle is, but it's very distracting, all the background noise. I'm not sure what your angle is of being out there, they're doing that, but it's very distracting and hard to follow you with all the background noise.
All right. Here's the situation relative to this position, and then the finances and the suggestion. And I always appreciate Kevin's input. He's a thoughtful guy, and he's got a lot of experience in municipal government. The broadband, I'll speak to that in a moment, I guess, when that one gets called. And as I indicated, I am going to withdraw that. But we're not withdrawing that because of concerns about economic shortfall. And I can see if there was a sense that was the reason we were withdrawing it, then there, it might give a little bit more pause to this resolution. But it's not about revenue as it relates to that. On that note, from a revenue standpoint, we've been blessed out here so far. So we're in a good position. As it related to this then specific situation, the memorandum of understanding with the union, again, we don't have a second in command in that position. In each department, you would generally have two non-union. You'd have a department head and a deputy or assistant. In fire, it's the chief and the assistant chief. In police, it's the chief and the captain. And in the service department, since the mayor is the service director, then the head of that department is the deputy service director. You might remember, he hadn't been in that position that long when I came here in 2018. And he had been recently elevated to that position, and the second in command had not been filled. In August of 2018, the union was concerned about that and wondered about that. And that's when they first agreed to this memorandum of understanding where one of their union guys would serve as a work leader and actually serve as a supervisor throughout the day, but particularly in situations when the deputy service director wasn't available. For instance, vacations, called away, whatever. So we needed somebody in that position. The union was gracious enough to grant us a memorandum of understanding for 1 year. So that was from August of 2018 to August of 2019. Now, in August of 2019, we asked them to give us a little bit more time with that. Could they give us another 6 months? We told them then, we're going to fill this. We're not quite ready. Can we go 6 more months? They allowed us to do that. So that took us to March of 2020. When we got to March of 2020, I will say they certainly never expected this to last this long. And then we were right in the middle of COVID. COVID was just kicking off. And so they understood our situation at that point and said, listen, we'll extend it another 90 days. So that took it to June of 2020. If you remember, back in March, nobody really knew exactly how bad COVID was going to be and what impact it might have. And so we said, give us 90 days. Well, by the time we got to June, businesses were shut down. We had no idea what the revenue streams were going to be. And at that point, they, again, were gracious enough to continue it 9 more months. And they took it out to June of 2021. So this means they have extended us 2.5 years with this work leader. And that was clearly enough from their perspective. As I indicated last time we spoke on this, I'm bringing this to you now. The plan is clearly, and I want to state clearly that the full intention, if council approves this, once we fill that second position with the road superintendent, and that would be effective at the end of the memorandum period, which is early March of 2021. We fully intend to hire another individual into the service department. I met with Susan yesterday. We've been meeting regularly relative to finance. We are going to be in a better position financially starting next year than we were this year. The reality of it is that we haven't taken the hit yet as far as revenue streams that some other cities have. And we've wanted to hire an extra individual in the road department anyway for quite some time. So we fully intend to hire another individual in the service department first quarter of next year. It'd probably happen the second quarter of next year. And the funds are there sufficient to do that. So the only other question is, why are we doing it now as opposed to why didn't we wait till next year? We don't have to wait till next year out of prudence from a financial situation. We have the funds available that we're going to be able to do this. But this was sort of a return courtesy to the union. And as I mentioned to you before, that Gerard Colant, who was the union representative from the minute they walked in the door here and formed a union, retired after, I can't even remember how many years, he told us 25 years or so with the Teamsters, and he knew he was retiring. He had given his word to his guys in that department as to that this would not go on forever. And he didn't want to leave his position without some assurance from us that we were going to honor our part of this. And these memorandums of understanding were intended to be temporary. We were going to fill that position. So that's the primary reason that you have it now. But from a financial standpoint, we are fully secure. We think that that this will beef up our service department when it's all in place. That there will be times that that this road superintendent will be permitted to do some union work. A perfect example is the snow plowing. That he would be on that night shift. Now he'll be on it. He'll be on it as a work leader this winter. Next winter he would be on it as a road superintendent, and he is able to do the plowing unless somebody in the labor unit wants to take those hours. And historically, we've got a pretty clear path that nobody's dying to come in here in the middle of the night and plow. They're getting plenty of hours on their own shift and plenty of overtime. So we'll probably be up a half a man, let's say, in this department once we move him up and hire somebody new. So I know that's a long answer to a short question, but I hope it's responsive. And I think it's the right move for us.
I had a few questions, if I could.
Sure.
So this is a position that we already have, correct?
We haven't. It's a position that exists. It just isn't filled.
So I'm curious, why do we have to vote on filling it or doing that then? If it's already...
it's what the charter requires is that council approves compensation. So Andrew, Mr. Fetterman, it's arguable whether you even had to approve it, quite frankly. But by the same token, I didn't want to just do this. I wanted to have everybody on board and know what we were doing.
Okay. So not that I necessarily agree with why. I understand why we're doing it right now. But if we vote and it happens to pass tonight, why wait at that point? Can let's just move it along, get them started?
Well, we'd like to keep him in the union through the winter and wait till the spring to add the additional person, just from
oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Understood. That's all I have.
Anyone else have questions or comments regarding this? Thoughts on going ahead with a vote, or would you like to go for a third reading? We certainly have time either way.
I say go for the vote. Terry.
Yeah, I'm good with voting tonight.
Okay, then we'll ask to waive the third reading on this resolution, and we'll close finance at 6:16.
All right, thank you, Jim. Can everybody hear me? I'm having a little trouble here.
I can hear you.
You got me? My computer's janky.
I can hear you. I don't know about everybody else, but I can.
All right, now
I can.
it's going in and out. Okay. Well, we're going to move to community. Well, actually, we're going to push it over to Tony's public utilities for resolution 20-R-54.
All right, this was assigned to Public Utility Committee. And opening time, we can go at 6:17. This resolution number is 20-R-54. A resolution authorizing New Franklin to enter into an agreement with the Spectrum Mid-America LLC to extend broadband infrastructure to areas of New Franklin in need of broadband due to the COVID-19, and declaring that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon passage. Open for questions or comments. And Mayor, you got anything you want to say?
Thank you, Mr. Hawk. Yes, I am. I'd indicated in advance, and I'm withdrawing this resolution at this time. And but I did ask to keep it on the agenda just so I could address a little bit of the history on this, and then why I'm withdrawing it at this time. The history is this, that we had a pool of people. I don't know what happened, but since I've been here, early on, 2018, I had a number of people reach out, maybe a half a dozen, 4, 5, 6, most of them on the west side of the city, saying, hey, we have no internet out here. Is there anything you can do to help us? I didn't know the answer to that. So I talked to AT&T and I talked to Spectrum, and they said, no. If the folks want it, they got to pay to run the lines out there. And in a lot of these cases, it's extremely expensive. In some of them, it's in excess of $20,000, depending on how far you are. And on some of these, now that I see where they're going, it would be well in excess of that, because there's a lot of ground to cover. From Fairland is one of the primary target areas. And if you went to the last house that has it, and then went all the way south to the last house who wanted it, if the shorter spans are 20 grand, it'd probably be 100 grand, 150 grand to get it down there. So we didn't have any relief for them, and there was really nothing we could do. When COVID came along, and they shut the schools, people had to work from home. Telehealth got started. The remote learning started happening. We had a few more people reach out to us at that point and say, listen, we don't have internet. Is there anything you can do to help? Now, meanwhile, and one of them was that priceless letter from a young lady who wrote in her own hand, please, can you help us? So we had some guidance, and we knew we were going to start getting some money. This is back in like April and May, into June. And we knew there was going to be some money coming to the cities, and we didn't know how much, and we knew there were going to be some limitations on how we could use it. We didn't know what those would be. When the first wave of the CARES Act funding was announced and came through, we were advised that one of the acceptable uses would be for the extension of broadband. So at that point, we didn't know if we'd have what we were going to get. Would we have enough money to do it anyway? But we started broadcasting and trying to get the word out. Hey, if you don't have internet and you need it, let us know that, because we're going to see what we can do. And we did that on the daily, the message I send out each day on the website. I think we put it on the Facebook. And we started getting a few more calls. And over the course of time, that half a dozen people grew to 35. So all those people had reached out and said, yes, we need internet. So meanwhile, now we're into July, August. We're being told one day how we can spend the CARES money, and the next day we're being told how we can't spend it. We don't know what our revenue stream is going to be and what we're going to be able to do with these funds if and when we get them. But nevertheless, we reached out to Spectrum, and July, August, let's say August, we sent them the list. We said, here's where we want it. What would it cost to get it there? And we also reached out to AT&T, I should add, and I got no response from AT&T. What our intentions were at the time that I sent that out to, that was waiting for Spectrum to get back to us with some costs. We had drafted a proposal that we intended to send to Summit County and also to the state of Ohio to ask them if they would, from their excess funds, would they fund this internet, this broadband expansion? And then we waited for Spectrum to give us some numbers. And then there was a contract, and the contract had to be reviewed, and then it got sent back. And then meanwhile, we're waiting on the numbers. They gave us some preliminary numbers, but between the time they gave us the first numbers, we had about 10 more houses sign up. So we sent them the new 10 houses. So Larry, let me see if I can cut to the chase on this. About 3 weeks ago, we still didn't have the numbers yet from Spectrum, but we were told what we thought was definitively that of the approximately $1.5 million that the total that was going to come in for the CARES Act money, that we would only be able to use about, let's say, 700,000 of that for payroll replacement. And the payroll replacement is our safety net, as you know, in the event that the revenue stream is drastically reduced. It was predicted that our revenue stream was going to be down about 20%, which is about 1.3 million. So we thought, well, maybe we'll be lucky enough to break even. So all of a sudden, we can only use 700,000 for payroll replacement, and now we had about another 800,000 that not just New Franklin, but Summit County and the state was telling all the cities, hey, listen, if you've got some ways that make sense with CARES, use it, because what you don't use, you send back. And that's not to say come up with frivolous ideas, but if you had some ideas you'd like to do and you maybe wouldn't otherwise do, for instance, this, you can do it. So at that point, I was disappointed we couldn't use the whole 1.5 on payroll, but I was happy that we'd be able to use the 200,000, 210,000 here on broadband. And that's how things existed until about 10 days ago. If Spectrum, just about the same day that I got the proposal from Spectrum, which was last Tuesday, and as you know, we had set the limitation to make sure that our resolutions were in by Thursday, so you guys would have them in time. On Tuesday, I got the proposal from Spectrum. Either that day or a day or so before, we got the latest final word from the U.S. Treasury that said we could use all of the CARES money on payroll replacement. So what to do? Do we use 1.5 million on payroll replacement, or do we use 1.3 million on payroll replacement and $200,000 on the broadband extension? So with that in mind, I said, I really didn't know which way I would want to go with it. I said, let me get this resolution out. I had a good conversation with Mr. Kotz, and we talked about, the pros and cons on this, and they're pretty obvious. This is $210,000 and it only benefits 35 houses. And that's a lot of money. And is that fair to everybody? And that's a valid concern. And a number of these houses are big houses out there in Fairland. That's not to say the people who live there are rich. I don't know what their financial situation is. But some of those houses are bigger houses. So there's that. Is this the best way we can use this money? So that's sort of, well, that's a real good question. The flip side of that, and it's like I had one on each shoulder telling, myself, which way do I go on this? And what do I recommend to you guys? And one of the arguments pro for me was, well, yeah, that's true, but this is exactly what the CARES money was supposed to be about. Was trying to reach, we had the numbers in there. I think we maybe even put them in the resolution. There were 60 people or so that worked from home, and the kids and the people doing telehealth. It affected a lot of people, 35 households, but maybe 100, 110 people were impacted by this. So, and this is what the CARES Act money was supposed to be about. So that made me lean towards, yeah, maybe we should do this. And then another, and I don't know who, I got to agree with me on this, but another thought I had was this. Yeah, I know it's only 35 houses, and that only becomes real important to me unless I'm one of those 35 houses. And then it's a little more important to me. And all you got to do is imagine life without internet. So it's sort of like, gee, I'm lucky enough that I live on a house where there's internet. So, I really don't want to spend money to get internet to you. By the way, I would mention, this is the whole plan. It takes the internet to the street. It doesn't take it to the house. The resident of the house has to pay whatever cost it is to run it from the street to the house and hook up, et cetera. This is just to get it down the street. All right. And I guess the last thing on the plus side is it does expand some infrastructure to some areas where we've got a lot of wide open areas. And I'm sure there's going to be a development in the future. Is that the hook that's going to bring the developer? Probably not. But it's one more plus in the plus column. If we're able to say, and by the way, we have internet that's expanded out there. So I'm wrestling with all those things, and I really didn't know which way I was going to go. And here's the final wild card, and I'm almost done. If I put this in front of you guys and ladies, and you approve it, this work, and we sign the contract, the work has to be completed or substantially completed by December 30th under the guidelines of the CARES Act. Now, I had every assurance that they would do that. And the contract talks about they shall commence performance as soon as, with the goal of completing the project no later than December 30th, subject to excusable delay. And I questioned them at length about how's it look? Are you guys ready to go? Is the construction ready? What's the normal timeline? No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll get it in. Don't worry about it. So I certainly would have shared that with you if we were here discussing whether to pass this. But that one rattled around in my mind quite a bit. And I was concerned about that as well. And when I got done weighing all of it, I thought, I don't know that it's worth rolling the dice, even if you approve this, to take a chance that we sign the contract and they don't get it done by December 30th. And then we can't use, we've already said we're only going to use 1.3 million for payroll replacement. And we got 200,000 out here for broadband, and they don't finish the job. They have a strike. I don't know what could happen. And so now we can't use that $200,000. So that was like the straw that broke my back on it. And that's why I'm withdrawing the resolution. Not to say you guys can't reintroduce it yourself if you want to. I would have, we wouldn't have had that problem. And I, and the gentleman I'm talking to from Spectrum, he knows that. I've been asking for these numbers for, 45 days. They've had in their hands the final list, and it just didn't happen. So if they'd have got these to us a month ago, I'd have been telling you a different story. I'd have been saying, hey, you might as well do it because we're not gonna be able to spend this money otherwise. But now we can. So the final piece is this. We know there's going to be a second round of funding. Whenever Congress gets around to it. And we know that there's been extensive lobbying done that both sides now agree that there's going to be, of that second round of funding, there's going to be money coming to municipal governments again, to local governments. We don't know how much. We're not sure when. Probably it's going to be shortly after the election, I would think. And probably sometime right after the first of the year, there'll be another influx. I don't know how much that'll be. We'll find out. Meanwhile, what we are going to do is, it was pointed out, and Mr. Kotz made a relevant, he said, how do you know there's not more people out there? I said, I don't know. We've been asking. I said, anybody you asked, we put them on the list. And we've been advertising it on our website and everything. He said, well, what if they don't have internet? I said, well, that's a good question. So we're going to put out a press release in the next few days, telling people that we are considering again this program. We don't know if we're going to do it or not. But if you do not have internet and you live in New Franklin and you want it, let us know that. This will give us some additional time to gather whatever additional names might be out there. We'll kick that back to Spectrum. We'll shake the bush with AT&T again, see if they have any interest. We will wait until the second round of funding comes in and see what kind of restrictions are placed on it. We'll know a little bit better what our financial situation is. And if all the stars line up, then I'm going to come back to you with this a second time. So that's an awful lot on this, but it's a big deal. And as was pointed out, I felt like the Grinch that stole Christmas, literally, I guess, to these households that we were sort of keeping them posted. And now we had to say, listen, we're pulling this thing. We did send a letter out to everybody on that list, advising them of what I've just told you, telling them there'll be a second round of funding, and we're going to revisit the project. And I told them I'll do my best to, make this happen, but, and I will, if it's practical, economically practical, makes sense for the city. And so obviously you guys get to say on that. So again, I'm sorry to be so long-winded on that, but that's the package on that one. So I'm withdrawing that resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'm the one that's on your one shoulder with the little devil, but I feel this is Spectrum's responsibility to provide the lines to these people, not ours. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I got a couple things. I'm just looking at some of the comments coming in. Then I got a couple things I'd like to say too. There's a couple questions that whoever sent them in, I responded. We'll get to your questions at the end of the meeting, but just some of the comments, there's a comment that sounds like a lot of money for 35 houses. And there's a comment here is, why is the city responsible for everyone having cable TV or internet? There are houses in New Franklin that don't have natural gas. Are we going to pay for gas lines to be installed also? And then there's this is a question about what we're talking about. It says, do we know how many of those 35 households have student age children in them too? And I'm also, there is ways of getting internet, and I don't want to be the bad guy on this, but these were houses people moved into that didn't have these when they probably moved into them, and I know there's people that live out that I work with that they have like wireless satellite internet, and that's what they get, and they have to foot the bill for that. So, I mean, if that was money we had to give back to the state or the government, then that would be a thing. But if we would ever have to come out of that money out of our pockets, I would not be for that at all, Paul. That's my comments, and addressing some of the comments on the coming in on Facebook. Thanks.
And I don't disagree with you on a lot of those issues that David, or the comments. I will say this is, the difference on the natural gas thing is that originally my answer to these folks pre-COVID was, we can't help you. It's only because of the concerns that have arisen relative to COVID and the fact that this is one of the, when they list the, what can you use this money on? This was one of them. So this, the idea didn't originate with me. And it's a relatively limited list of how you can spend this money, as you guys know. Let's see, 50. There were 50 students working from home. We had 62 residents who are using telehealth. And half the homes had one or more adults who would work from home if the internet was available. So that would only be 17 or 18. So yeah, 20, 60, you add the 50 kids, you probably had about 110 people that were impacted, something in that range.
Any more comments, questions?
Tony, I have a comment. I'm sorry. But would this be similar, Paul, to the situation when we got a list from the people that were impacted by the bridge that was out, that lived in New Franklin?
I mean, how do you mean that? Yeah, well,
Well,
yeah,
I'm
to me
saying
it
that
is.
there
Yeah.
were a lot of residents that were impacted by that.
I couldn't, I totally agree. The short answer is yes, it is similar. Where the similarity ends is at least there is a pool of money that we're authorized to spend. The Congo Road Bridge, there's not a similar pool of money, and there's an issue about whether we're authorized to spend it. We haven't pursued that question about authority with the auditor's office yet. If New Franklin was ever of a mind to say, listen, we're going to dig into our treasury and do what we can to help open Congo Road, which, you know, I'm inclined to, well, you know, if we reach a point where we feel we have funds to do that, I'm going to come back and talk to you about that. I'm going to get that opinion. But yes,
I
Judy, I think it
understand.
is.
That's
I
what
think
I'm
it is
saying.
very,
This is a similar situation. This money just happened upon us, and you saw a way to use it to help the residents.
that's
It
correct.
happens to be a select number of residents, but it would be, to me, the same type of situation if we had the money.
Uh-huh.
This was offered to you at the time.
No, I would agree with that.
Any more questions or comments? And then I'm going to close this at 6:38.
All right, thank you, Tony. Can you guys hear that leaf blower? Is that
No.
distracting? No? Okay, I hear it out in the distance. Okay, anything else for anybody? I think we're done with our legislation. Anybody have anything in their committees they'd like to talk about this evening? All right, let's get this thing going. I'm gonna call to order the City of New Franklin. 6:39, Wednesday, October 21st, 2020. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
Which it stands.
One nation.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cotts? Mr. Cotts?
Yes.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Present.
Mr. Fetterman?
Here,
Mr. Hawk?
Here,
Miss Norris?
Here.
Mr. Stock?
Here. All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular scheduled meeting of October 7th, 2020.
Second.
First and second, roll call, please. Any discussion first? Any questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman?
yes,
Mr. Hawk?
yes,
Miss Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Cotts?
Yes.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes or the financials for September 2020, subject to audit.
Second.
First and second, roll call, please.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman?
yes,
Mr. Hawk?
yes,
Miss Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Cotts? Mr. Hargit?
Yes.
All right, thank you. We do go into public comments. I got a few things. I guess there's some questions in here. I guess just go ahead and take care of it now. Couple comments. A couple of them I already read off. There was another comment that says, feel free to post your memorandum on the New Franklin V page to get enough exposure to the residents. There's another one that says there are other ways of getting internet. The man who is launching satellites to cover the whole USA, the guy that sent his Tesla car to Mars is the guy behind this. There's another one that says times have changed. The way school is conducted, more than likely there will be more snow days so students will have online learning. And Tony, somebody agreed with you when you was talking about the running that internet. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and throw these questions in, Paul.
Mr.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
the questions.
I just have,
Go ahead, Jim.
I just have comments from Kevin emails I want to read also, but I can wait till after your questions.
Okay, I'll get through this real quick here. Okay, this is, I'm gonna read, there's a few questions in here, and one was, one man did the job for 40 years, plus now we need 2. This goes back to the road superintendent, and I think you would explain some of that, Paul. And it says we have a road super secretary. The old people that had the job did it all. Now we need 2 heads of department and a secretary. Side note, you as for responses, and then do not give time to type in response. A man talking can transfer way more information than a man typing. We were at a disadvantage. And to that, I watched this, and you get it in here before we get out of here, and we're going to answer your questions or try to answer them, or I will give your comments. So if you're a little behind getting in here, I'm reading these. Katie's looking at them the whole time. We will not let nothing get through here. If you can get it into us before we adjourn the meeting and we give a little time at the end, then we'll get to it. So I'm not a good typer either, but we'll get to you. And here's another one. I thought the restrictions had been lifted. When can we get back to meeting in person? So, and I know there's still some social distancing issues. How many people can we get in there? Do we have a cutoff? You agree with that, Paul? I mean, are we taking temperatures before people come in? There's a lot to it.
The rule hasn't changed, and it's 10 people.
Okay.
Well, a month or so ago, I sent something out. We read it here that Summit County Public Health told us that somebody from the Ohio Department of Health had said, if you want to go ahead and resume your public meetings, you can do that because there's First Amendment issues, but we're not gonna issue a statement to that effect. And then Summit County Public Health, having told us that that's what the Ohio Department of Health said, but they wouldn't issue a statement to support that, also said they weren't going to issue a statement to support that. So, it's like, proceed at your own risk in that regard. There's no authority, there's no legal authority that would allow us to go back to public meetings at this point in time. I noticed that Summit County Council, about 3 weeks ago, I saw in the paper they were going to go back to in-person meetings. And about 4 days later, I saw in the paper that they changed their mind and they're not going to go back to in-person meetings. And then now on top of everything else, we're Red County again. And so there's no authority for us to do it.
Thank
I
you.
don't have a preference. I hope everybody understands that. I'd be happy to be out in the main room and throw the doors open. Believe me, I'm looking forward to that day. But it would be contrary to right now the directives from the Ohio Department of Health to do that.
I agree. Anybody else have any comments on that question?
Hey, I want to go back to the road thing real quick, just to say that, that we got twice the mileage that we had of roads to begin with. And anybody who's waiting for a ditch enclosure and has been on the list for 2.5, 3 years, or has a drainage issue that we haven't been able to get to, is well aware that we don't have the manpower, the person power to do all of the things we would like to do around the city. So we don't have anybody sitting around with their feet up. I can assure you that.
I think it should be mentioned also that even back in the township days, we had a road superintendent and an assistant road superintendent. So there were 2 people in charge, not just one.
Thank you, Susan. Yeah, a lot has changed since 40 years ago. Like you said, Paul, we got way more responsibility on the roads now. And I know there's people waiting for their ditch enclosures. There's all kinds of drainage issues, and just the normal day to day is just about what we can handle. So I think it'll work out just fine. All right. Here comes another one, since we're still in our public comments. And here's this is a good question here. When in-person does return, will the live stream continue? I think that's a great idea. I mean, is it a problem to do that, Paul, while we're
You got to ask the techies on that one. I'm guessing probably not.
there you are. You got us on that one?
It beats me. I think so. I don't know why we couldn't. Katie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we could.
Okay.
All right. I mean, how's everybody feel about that? I think that's a great idea.
We've always wanted to do that. You know, we've talked about that a lot of times, trying to get live. So,
Nice to catch up with the times.
yeah.
Yep.
But I think if we go live and continue to stream on Facebook, we will be able to cut off having questions come in through Facebook. People have comments, concerns, they come to the meetings, but I don't know that we need to be monitoring comments and questions during the meeting if we're back to being live.
Yeah, that's something we can talk about as far as that goes. I mean, we still don't, this is probably as many as we've gotten in one night, isn't it, Katie, since we've been doing it? I mean, by far. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to just looking, checking as we're going to a meeting, Jim, I mean, like I said, we got quite a few tonight. I'm guessing a few of the people that I'm getting comments or questions from are people that regularly attend our meeting, but then we're getting a few people in there that, you know, probably can't make that trip maybe, you know, and still like to know what's going on and maybe have a question. Maybe that'll be better that we get some questions and comments. We're normally the same, you know, half dozen to a dozen people at our meetings, and we don't really hear from anybody else. And this might give everybody a chance to get involved, and I think that's a good thing. So we'll see how it goes. We'll talk about it amongst council and see where we want to go with it. All righty. Well, now we got.
I think Jim said he had some.
I do. It's now a good time. Okay, so a couple comments that came in to me. I want to thank the office staff for helping provide some of the food boxes to a needed couple in the community. Seeing how Thanksgiving is just around the corner, will there be another food drive effort for the community sponsored by the city? Next, I want to thank the city staff for changing the dashed yellow line to a solid yellow line on the westward lane of 619 between Chester and Hilltop. It's a big safety issue, and personally have had many instances of people passing vehicles well into the non-passing zone, causing potential for a head-on contact. That's all.
David,
Yes.
may I add a comment on that? People in the
Yes, go ahead.
community are still hurting, and if you can afford to donate to the food banks, the area food banks, they really need our help right now. And they can buy so much less expensively than we can, that to donate to the food banks is really a worthy cause.
Yeah, that's for sure, Judy. Thank you. Anybody else? Somebody also thinks it's a good idea to continue the live stream. All righty. So if that's all for our public comments, and we did address the questions that I had, did we get them all, you think, Katie?
I think you got everything that I saw. There were a couple about the school snow days and going
Yeah,
online
I
more.
think I read that one out. And then the other one said they like the format of, they prefer, I'm thinking they prefer this format we're doing right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, that came up when we were talking about going back into regular meetings. Okay. I think that's it then. If we missed you, go ahead and hit us up again. I think I covered everything and we got everybody addressed. All right. We'll go into our legislation. We got 2 first readings and 1 second reading. Go to first reading resolution 20-R-53. Kelly?
A resolution authorizing New Franklin to enter into an agreement with 21st Century Alarm Incorporated for the purchase of an electronic door notification system, an outdoor camera system, and the upgrade of camera fob server software for Manchester local schools in conjunction with the COPS Office Stop School Violence Prevention Program Award, and declaring that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon passage.
This resolution is assigned to the Finance Committee. We move to waive the 3 readings on Resolution 20R-53.
second,
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Fetterman,
Yes.
Mr. Hawk,
Yes.
Ms. Norris,
yes,
Mr. Stock,
Yes.
Mr. Cotts,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Hargit,
yes,
Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
We move to adopt Resolution 20R-50.
Second.
We have a second. Any further questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Fetterman,
Yes.
Mr. Hawk,
Yes.
Ms. Norris,
yes,
Mr. Stock,
Yes.
Mr. Cotts,
Yes.
Mr. Hargit,
yes,
Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Move to resolution number 20-R-54, Kelly.
A resolution authorizing New Franklin to enter into an agreement with Spectrum Mid-America LLC to extend broadband infrastructure to areas of New Franklin in need of broadband due to COVID-19, and declaring that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon passage.
This was assigned to the Public Utility Committee, and we're gonna withdraw that.
Yeah, I would,
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
sponsor, I would withdraw that.
All right, you're gonna withdraw that? Okay, thanks, Paul. All right, that takes care of our first reading. Second readings, we have 1 resolution 20-R-50. Kelly?
A resolution authorizing the hiring of a service department road superintendent as a division head and executive employee under the Fair Labor Standards Act, and establishing compensation, and declaring that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon passage.
This resolution is assigned to the Finance Committee. We move to waive the 3rd reading on Resolution 20R-50.
Second.
We got first and second roll call.
Mr. Stock,
Yes.
Mr. Cotts,
Yes.
Mr. Hargit,
yes,
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman,
Yes.
Mr. Hawk,
Yes.
Ms. Norris.
yes,
We move to adopt Resolution R-50.
second,
Second.
All right, we got first, second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Stock,
Yes.
Mr. Cotts,
Yes.
Mr. Hargit,
yes,
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Fetterman,
Yes.
Mr. Hawk,
Yes.
Ms. Norris.
yes,
All right, that passes 7-0. Thank you. That'll take care of our legislation this evening. We'll pull right into the mayor's report. Paul?
You're muted. Unmute.
I was just trying to see how you guys were doing on lip reading. Apparently, you did a little work. All right. The Personnel Advisory and Appeals Board is meeting Tuesday, October 27th at 4:30 to review the policy manual. They've had it for a while. If they do approve it, there will be we'll have an ordinance for you folks to consider at the November 4th meeting. I think everybody's had a pretty good chance to weigh in, and we did make some changes based on comments. So if you have any last minute comments, please get those to us. The Council of Governments, which was approved by the City of Greene at their last meeting. So there is now a Council of Governments, South Summit Council of Governments. And the organizational meeting for that entity will occur on Monday, October 26th at 2:00. That is it's not a Zoom meeting, it's a Microsoft Teams meeting. It's a pretty limited agenda. What has to happen is, even though both cities have agreed to form the COG, it's not an official Council of Governments until the auditor approves the bylaws. And so the bylaws have been drafted, and that meeting on Monday, which will be myself and Mayor Neugebauer, our one order of business will be to adopt those bylaws. And then we are prohibited by statute from doing any other substantive work other than forwarding those bylaws down with some other necessary paperwork down to the auditor's office. And at such time as the auditor completes their review and designates the South Summit Council of Governments as a political entity, at that point, the COG can then actually get to work. So it's a pretty perfunctory meeting on Monday. Meanwhile, we are working on with the chief from fire chief from Greene and the chiefs here. A consultant that has been hired, and the law departments from both cities putting together put together a policy manual, make arrangements for the IT, make arrangements for the finance arm of that, and make it looks like consideration for a personnel advisory and appeals board there as well, as opposed to civil service. And so all of that is in the formative stage that's going on. The idea is that we will, when we're able, begin some joint training. And first quarter, we would project, be ready to man and start operating that joint dispatch. So that's moving down the tracks, and that's a good thing. Everybody over here is internally is very, very happy about it. All right, we're going to have a development Zoom meeting on Thursday, October 29th at 10:30. We did send invitations out to all of council and multiple business owners and interested parties to update those folks and anybody else who's interested on the State Route 93 commercial corridor. I think we've kept you guys updated, but you know what's happening, and we got by this time next year the water will be there, and I don't know whether they're going to be able to start construction this year or not, but that's happening. I've talked with sanitary sewers, and I was down there Friday, and being advised that even though it's going to be a slow crawl into the neighborhoods, we are still on their to-do list for the run up Vanderhoof from the Barberton wastewater plant, and then through that 93 corridor. So that's still being planned. They're doing the engineering. They would hope to bid it next year, and we're looking at 2 years. And into the neighborhoods, we're well beyond that. My guess, 4 or 5 years We're gonna kind of unfold that, and we're having some discussions, the planning department, Insight, our contract planners, and Barry Gano, they've been doing a lot of work in terms of suggesting what that corridor might look like, State Route 93, what we might want to do up there. So we're going to be announcing all that stuff. So tune in if you can. And we are going to record it. If you can't watch it, come back and anybody who's interested will be able to get back on and see it after the fact. So that's going to be next Thursday at 10:30 in the morning. The leaf drop off, we're going to do it every Saturday, starting this Saturday. We have a grant from ReWorks, and we've done the math on it, and we'll be able to cover these Saturdays. It's going to be every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. The service department guys get to pick up a little bit overtime, and we thank them for making themselves available, and for Brian for all the time he puts into this. But I don't know about you, but those leaves are falling a little quicker than they sometimes do. And I got about 10 bags of them in my front yard right now. So I'll be going over there Saturday morning. And the big deal on that, as you guys probably know, is ecology. If they don't go to the road department and they don't go in somebody else's, garden, they go on the curb and Republic picks them up. And when they go in the landfill, they do not, what's the word I'm looking for, Susan?
Degrade.
Yeah, they don't degrade. When they get dumped in the open air, they will, even though it's very slow. But if they end up in your, if Republic picks them up and dumps them, they don't go anywhere. And so they are Summit Soil and Water. That's why we have a grant to encourage people to take the time to throw them in the back of the truck or a trailer or something like that and run them up there every week if you can, rather than putting them on the curb. So please do. The pickleball is proceeding, and we've got the equipment that came in, and we're getting some pricing on doing that little court over there at Lakeside. And even though it's the end of the year, we're going to try to get it up before the year's out. The posts have sleeves, so once we put it up, as soon as the weather turns really bad, we can pull them out of there. And lastly, on we are also talking to the Parks Department. Two things. One is we're going to be able to proceed with taking care of the drainage on the soccer field over at Sisler. We did this summer, took care of the spring and summer, the drainage on 2 of the Sisler fields that were bad. But we didn't get around to the soccer field, but we're going to be able to do that this fall. You can't do it in the spring. It's too wet. And we got a lot of kids playing soccer over there, and they're playing in the muck a lot. I've been on that field where if when it's, and I'm not talking about torrential rain, I'm talking about a week after the rain, and it's sponge. So we're going to get that done as well. Lastly, talks have revived on tennis courts. So our Parks Committee is looking into that, and we're going to do some pricing. I've talked with the Manchester schools. They might be willing to give us a piece of land over there. And in return, we'd allow the tennis team to play over there, as we would any school district in the city if we got courts, because these guys all share. Right now, I guess Manchester and Coventry go over to Barberton and use their courts. So we're going to see what the pricing is on that, see what kind of grant money we can get, and see if there's a chance to get some tennis courts out here, in addition to eventually some more pickleball courts. That's all I got.
All right, thank you, Paul. Finance, Susan?
Well, we are starting to gear down for the end of the year. And right now we're kind of, especially Diane and I are kind of in the trenches, figuring out the specifics on how to use this CARES money and to work out the payroll, because we have to make sure that everything is accounted for and that we have up for all of it so that we can use all the money that we have been given. So it takes a little time to do that, but we're working on that. We've met with the mayor on many occasions, and we're working out all the bugs and getting that underway, but pretty much everything else is pretty status quo. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Susan. Move into old business. Any old business? Going once, going twice, gone. New business.
And Dave, I have a few things, if you don't
All
mind.
right, go ahead.
So I was approached by, actually, I met with a couple of residents. I won't say their names. One's a faithful, comes to our meetings faithfully, and the other is a middle school teacher. So he would have a good pulse on this. But they were asking me about a community center, and I know that's not a new idea. But they were pretty fired up about it, and think that there's a pretty strong need for it, and had some ideas. But that's what it is at this point. It's an idea. So I just want to plant the seed. I don't know if we have, if there are any grants available to go towards something like that. And they had mentioned that the old bank building that's been vacant for so long would be actually a pretty decent spot. I doubt that owner will let us use it for that free, you know, but you never know if he wanted to like to donate something to that effect.
I'll tell you two things. There's two places right away that come to mind. Obviously, the idea of building something doesn't work. Actually, three things. You know, if I still hope this week to get a proposal put together, a request for proposal to see about the interest of building out at the Tudor House. And if we went to a 4-season building, that could be a building that could serve, you know, to some extent, could function.
And I had mentioned that to them as well. They were unaware.
Now, in addition to that, we have a church right next to us. We're running a daycare there. That daycare has moved. I don't know what their future is, and I wish them the best. And I hope, and I mean that from my heart. I hope that if that congregation is there and they're strong, and that's where they, you know, that's where they worship, then we are here to support them because they've been great neighbors for us. But if at any point in time it turns out that that's no longer a productive place for them, that would be an excellent place.
That would be a fantastic spot. Yeah.
So I've never initiated that conversation, but lately it's been on my mind, and I just haven't had the opportunity to speak to the pastor. But you know, now that the daycare left, and I don't see a lot of activity over there, I will reach out. The third possibility is the Manchester Public Schools Administration Building, because they've indicated that they're going to be moving their administration into the current high school. I don't know what their long-term plans are. I don't think they're looking for new tenants, because when we wanted to move, the daycare wanted to move, and they were looking for somewhere to go, and we reached out there, and they said they weren't interested in bringing new people in. So in the condition of the building, we'd have to consider those things, but that really could, you know, there's a historical, you know, perspective to that one as well. So, Mr. Fetterman, I can tell you that that's on our list, and I think it's.
And I assured them that this wasn't a new idea. That, and as you've had several thoughts,
it's an important piece.
Difficult.
Yeah. So, so we're going to keep pursuing it.
Okay, thank you. Next would be, and Mayor, if you don't mind earmuffing for a second, for council to consider. The mayor's salary. I don't think that has gone up since we have become a city, right? We have several department heads or supervisors ahead of the mayor's salary. So I just wanted to plant that seed with you guys and see what you guys think about. I know legally and all that stuff, it wouldn't be, I know how it goes, but just, you know, we have to get that out there. That's something that we would like to do for him. Or the next mayor. And the last thing I have is go vote, please. That's all I have. Thank you, Dave.
Yep, exactly. Let's get out and vote. It sounds like so far there's people out there voting for sure. I'm still hanging on. I'm gonna do that in-person thing. I've been doing it a long time, and I just
same here. Yep, I'm a diehard.
Strap on my mask like I wear everywhere else and just do my thing. That's just how I'm gonna roll. So anyhow, well, thank you, Andy. What was that? New business? Yeah. Any other new business? All right. Everybody hear my crickets? All right. So anyhow, all right. Public questions. think we've been taking care of them. I do know that we have a comment I'd like to read right now. Okay, and it's a comment. Whoa, is that me? That wasn't me, I don't think. The BACM, not sure what that is for, but will deliver food to shut-ins in need, if needed, in New Franklin. Andy, you know what that is? You might know. 'Cause you-
It's,
It may be the Barberton community.
It's
Yeah.
the Barberton Area Community Ministry on Norton Avenue.
Okay. I
And
think,
they
Andy-
do a lot for New Franklin.
all right. Thank you, Judy. So I'd read that one. That one came in. There's another comment, but I guess I don't really even get what it was supposed to mean, but I'll read it anyhow. It says, you read about increase of snow days. The snowfall trend is less. You did not read that. So I don't not really know what that is. All I was reading about the snowfall and snow days, or was the snow days, was just another comment. So I addressed that too. We just got another one in here. Excuse me. As a citizen unable to attend meetings in person to work schedule, I'd like to thank you for this approach to the meeting. All right, there's somebody else. Look like we had some pretty good turnout tonight. Is it about the same, Katie, or we got more tonight, or just
We
more
had a
interest?
little, we had a little more tonight. I saw 22 at one point.
Ooh, look at us. All right. Well, I ain't seeing nothing else come in.
I think you got them all.
All right. And trying to address it as we go here. Give it a few minutes, but I think everybody had ample time here. Paul, we ain't gonna be looking at an executive session, are we? No? Okay. All right. I'm gonna make a
No.
motion. Oh, all right. I get it. I seen the thumbs down. I got you. I do understand that one. I just don't lip read real good. A couple things I can pick out. Okay. Well, anyhow, no executive session. I'll make a motion that we adjourn. Oh,
Second.
all right. Well, one quick one says, it was said more snow days to support broadband. The trend is less. Look at the data. Okay. All right. We will. All right. Good enough. Good seeing everybody. Did we adjourn? Everybody vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I,
All right. Let's have it. Good seeing everybody.
Aye.
Good night.